Hello everyone, my name is Susan. I'm representing the project of the Qlink. So before I start, I want to introduce my team members which are with me today. Alan Lee, which is a co-developer and the CEO of our project. Alan, can you stand up, say hi? Yes.
Hi.
And we have Dean, which is the head of community engagement. So Dean is going to cover the second part, which is dev running on the Qlink. So who is the Qlink? So Qlink is the first decentralized mobile network. And we're trying to solve two problems. The first is to cover uncovered areas, so give people the internet access. So the second is trying to improve efficiency of mobile network. The concept of the Qlink is pretty simple. It's to register. Sorry, I have to go back. Is to register the telecom assets on the public chains, which including your Wi-Fi routers, your content and data, and your unused SMS, or any kind of physical base station in the telecom space. So those things going to be registered on the public chain. And all the ledgers generated between asset owners and asset users going to be kept on the Qlink chains. And if you take one more step forward, think about this network. It's actually give everybody a chance to be the operator of your network and be plugged into telecom infrastructure and get a reward by sharing. So one of the biggest concepts we want to introduce is the Qlink base station. It's essentially a hardware which is a telecom network expansion to support Wi-Fi and LTE. At the same time, they fully brace to the blockchain and support POS and POW consensus mining. So it could be in any format. It could be at your home, at your office. And first, the business launch we are going to do is a cooperation with the Central Auto. Central Auto is an electrical vehicle maker in China serving the global market. And it's a logistic company. It's a manufacturer of logistic carts. And Qlink is going to provide the vehicle base station that installed on the car. And the car will become the hotspot as it goes. At the same time, a node on the Internet of Things. So any data the car generated can transmit back to whoever wants to access. At the same time, as it goes, it can provide additional network coverage to the crowds as needed. So, this kind of hardware gonna effectively bring down the cost of the heavy investment infrastructure in telecom industries. So we know a lot of countries, especially developing countries in the Southeast Asia, Africa, and South America, the people are demanding more data. For example, India. And on average speaking, one Indian can only enjoy 300 megabytes of data, which is 1/10 of US consumption right now. So if we want to give them better quality of the telecom service, and we'll have to spend $54 million to put up 360 towers in India alone, and no mention other countries. That is a lot of money. So what the Qlink can do is put up the base station in the different formats and empower individuals to have the network and build the network by sharing through the sharing protocols. So besides the hardware, this is the telecom architecture we introduced, which are essentially going to support all the sharing protocols. And three are core parts. The first is the Qlink app, including the Qlink mobile app and desktop. And the user can register telecom assets on the Qlink blockchain and again gain access to the network and at the same time and browse the content. The second part of our developments is the Qlink chain and public chain. We fully adopt Neon because Neon have a high TPS, which is fits in the feature of telecom industry. So we're going to work with the anthology teams, develop the Qlink chain, which is fully concentrated on the telecom industry and fit into the feature of the high TPS and the essential. Between those two chains, they're going to be a cross-chain protocols and make sure the communication between the two chains are properly running. And we're introducing Qlink gateway. So I think a lot of people heard about Ripple gateways, which is essentially a very similar ideas as API. You can plug in any telecom providers, including Verizon, AT&T, or virtual telecom providers, plug into this API. Essentially can serve the Qlink users and accept Qlink tokens, because we're going to do the fiat clearance at the same time. So this gateway will provide any telecom providers additional revenue stream. So, and here I want to introduce the man behind these ideas, our co-developers. Those three young men have been working together over 3 years on the previous startups, UU Mobile. And Alan Lee and Zhijie, the multiple patent owners on the telecom industry. Alan himself is the first batch of LTE engineers in Huawei. And we have Wang Peng and the senior software developers who are focused on the blockchain development right now. So this is the previous projects that they work together. And this is what kind of explain why they can do the Qlink and why they can do the mobile data distributions. So in the previous project, the UU Mobile, they developed the personal traveling Wi-Fi routers supporting the global roaming services. Pretty much like one routers you bring along, which country you travel, so you just can get unlimited data. And those are the maps that the clients they served. At the same time, this is a virtual SIM card bank, and running in Shanghai right now. So through the virtual SIM card bank, all the data will distributed to the routers and serving the user at the same time. And I would say Qlink is the project between the chain and the dApp. And we're actually accepting a lot of other applications running on the Qlink. But initially, there's a couple of dApps we could develop by ourselves. So my coworker Dean gonna introduce those dApps.
G'day. So as Susan said, there are a bunch of applications that are going to be possible to be built on top of all the technology that Susan just described. And the first one is a Wi-Fi sharing platform. Now, that doesn't look right. But there's a bunch of things that we feel that we can really improve upon the current Wi-Fi sharing methods. The first one, and perhaps the most important one, is security. So if you go home tonight and you open up Google and you punch in, how can I steal a Wi-Fi password? You're going to find plenty of information on how to do exactly that. Because at the moment, the current method of sharing a Wi-Fi password is something called a four-way handshake. And it's relatively simple to be able to capture that password during that process, and then the connection's been compromised. So we use blockchain to register the Wi-Fi asset onto the chain, and then we can use P2P. We can authorize the P2P transmission of that password direct from the hardware device to the user's phone, and we can kind of secure the Wi-Fi connection a lot better that way. Secondly, we can incentivize sharing a lot better. So there isn't really a lot of incentive to share your Wi-Fi connection at the moment, unless you're something like a coffee shop or an airport lounge. You're just really doing it as an extra convenience to your customers. And even then, on larger scale deployments, it can become quite expensive to deploy that technology. So the businesses will generally look to something like advertising to kind of offset those costs. So Qlink offers a few different options there to help make that easier. First of all, I mean, once you've registered your Wi-Fi to the network, you don't have to pay any ongoing costs. And there are a few different ways that you can monetize that connection. So there's content distribution. You can allow the users of your connection to view something like a video. They will receive a reward in the QLC token. So they get your connection to your Wi-Fi. They get some tokens for viewing that video. But the Wi-Fi sharer will also get kickback for those tokens. the Wi-Fi sharer can just set up free Wi-Fi and just accept donations in QLC, or they can set up a straight billing contract. So when they register the Wi-Fi, they say, I want 2 QLC per minute, and they can monetize it that way. So another potential use case is content distribution and mobile data. So Qlink is able to track and record content and registered content on the Qlink network, and then create a ledger of data consumption. Now this allows us to do a bunch of things. If you have a look at this diagram here, this is basically how it's going to work. So you've got the content provider in the top right. They register a piece of content to the Qlink network, and it's this is to the Qlink chain, and it's hashed and creates a unique fingerprint for that content. On the other side, you've got the users who are browsing the Qlink network. When they access a piece of content, it's hashed again, and another fingerprint is created. So if we can match these two fingerprints, if we find two fingerprints that are the same, we can then record that data transaction, create a content consumption ledger, and then bill that data transaction to an account accordingly. And that's going to enable a whole bunch of use cases. So in a sense, content providers can almost become data providers. If you think about how you use Netflix at the moment, right? You go and you purchase your Netflix subscription, you pay $10 a month or whatever it is, but it's useless to you unless you have a data connection. You need to go and purchase data from your mobile provider or your home internet, and that's how you're going to access the content. Using this system, theoretically a company like Netflix could go and register all their content on the Qlink network, then they could purchase mobile data through the gateway that Susan was describing, and assign that to that content. So when you purchase your Netflix subscription and you want to access those videos, you're using Netflix's data. They're sponsoring the data for you, so that doesn't come out of your account. So you could have a Netflix account, a Hulu account, and they could all sponsor their different data, and you wouldn't have to worry about that coming off your mobile plan. Because we can also track who is accessing a piece of content as well, not only can we charge the right accounts for that data transaction, but we can also reward people for that as well. So like I said before, advertisers could, if you're a movie studio, for instance, and you had a new movie coming out, you had a movie trailer you wanted everyone to go and watch, you could do that to the Qlink network. You could sponsor, say, 500 gigabytes of data for that, and then set like a 10,000 QLC token bounty, and then everyone who views that video will get a kickback, so there's incentive to go and to